Zero trust. Lots of people have been hearing these two words that go together. In order to talk about what zero trust is today and in the future, we really need to know where we've been when it comes to video surveillance and security in general. And when analog devices were out, how much cybersecurity were we worried about?
Not much.
Not much.
Not
right?
much at all. Yeah.
You punched in like a 4-digit code into your DVR in the rack, and you were in.
Did we even have cybersecurity professionals at that time?
Probably not. It's been a while. It's been like 15 years since there was wide use of analog.
It just
right?
didn't mean the same, right? It's different now.
Exactly. So, you have all these analog devices out there, and suddenly IP video and IP, everything for security started hitting the market, let's say 15 years ago. And when that happened, everything started riding on the IT department's network, right?
Right.
And for a while, they tried to keep things separate. Well, security will have their own network. But today, now that everything's IP, IT department is in charge of that, cybersecurity is paramount, right? Yep. They're really worried about data getting out in the security world, maybe somebody infiltrating the system, being able to use it. There's all kinds of angles of why cybersecurity is important. So if I think about meetings that we had with, let's say, government officials regarding securing their facilities, 3-4 years ago, you can correct me if my date's wrong, but we started hearing those two words, zero trust.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Is 3 to 4 years ago about accurate? How did that get into the common meeting conversation?
Right. No, it's almost exactly 4 years on the dot. A lot of this is tied to Executive Order 14028, May 2021, and essentially it's about beefing up the cybersecurity measures of our federal agencies here in the U.S. Zero trust isn't a new term in that regard, but that's when you and I really started hearing quite a bit about it. And I guess at a fundamental level, zero trust is a methodology for pursuit of cybersecurity. It means exactly what it sounds like. Never trust, always verify. So you have to assume that any device that's going on your network, any user that's accessing that network is potentially hostile. So if you take that at a very fundamental level and you treat everything on your network like it's a threat, and then you prove otherwise, that's a pretty fair practice.
So, I mean, when I think about implementation of just passwords, right? It used to be, my password is going to be 1234. And they said, now we need it to be complex, and it needs to have symbols and capital letters and numbers and all these things. And with that increased level of security comes some friction for the user of the system.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, zero trust is going to bring challenges for end users. It's going to bring challenges for manufacturers of the devices that ride on those networks.
Precisely.
Software manufacturers, there's going to be a lot of that. And I'm assuming that that's going to trickle down to private sector and not just stay in the government sector, right?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Just like the switch from analog to IP or any big industry shift, I think over time, this approach may be mimicked at the private sector level, right? As these projects are reaching out for any kind of installers that are in the private sector to then come in and execute these contracts, future projects down the line are going to look at the specifications laid out today and probably be looking for those same products and following the same type of pursuit for cybersecurity. So I definitely think we'll see a trickle down over time. We have had some interest in the private sector as regards to cybersecurity approach and zero trust in particular, but the main focus right now is at the federal level.
So talk to me about what part your team is playing in this, right? Because we have on your side of the zero trust ecosystem are servers, cameras, software, decoders. So what is your team's angle on this? What role do you play, and how do you fit into that ecosystem? What's important to you guys?
Sure. A lot of it is voice of customer right now. I'm marketing manager for North America. I'm responsible for pretty much everything that's not cameras that we talk about, but in this regard, we're sourcing a lot of feedback specific to any device that's going to touch that network, any software that's going to touch that network. So like I said, we're meeting with customers, we're understanding where their position is. There's no crystal ball on how to approach zero trust for a lot of these customers. They need to kind of get the lay of the land of their current network, current devices that are connected, and start that approach themselves, looking at some of the requirements that are under there, how the device connects, how the users access the network, and then making sure that they select product and services or software that kind of fit into that. So we're meeting regularly internally to go over these challenges, and of course with the customers as well. We've already had 3-4 meetings just in the past couple of months to kind of get some updates on progress these past, like you said, 4 years we've been into this now. So it's kind of an evolving landscape.
So if I'm doing my homework, right, my C-suite or supervisor has said, you need to start really thinking about zero trust. My guess is I'm not going to go on the internet and find some magic document that says to obtain zero trust or to attain zero trust, do these 25 steps, right? I'm thinking it's going to be different for every organization, every entity that's out there because of their environment and because of the devices they use.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just it. I mean, you'll find guidelines on, specifications that you'll be looking for, certificate-based communication, single sign-on, things like that, that you're going to be looking for not only at the device level, but also at the software and the user access level. And like I said, you need to determine what devices you have, what softwares you have, the versions do you need to increase. So it's no one size fits all. No, it's very much looking for things that are going to fit into the box. If it were easy, we wouldn't be talking about it 4 years down the road, right? We would have knocked it out in a couple of days.
So as these measures towards mitigation are implemented, again, I talked about the old password was 1234, and eventually it got extremely complex. I'm guessing something comes after the username password world. Like, when is what is the solution for not using a username and a password? Because eventually none of those are going to be secure, right? So what comes next?
Yeah, it's certificates. We've talked about certificates kind of as an additional means of authentication of a device, or authentication of the data being transmitted back and forth between the device and the server. But now we're talking about certificates being that handshake between the device and whatever that certificate authority is. There's some flexibility there to authenticate it at a very root level, which means there is no more username and password. Part of zero trust is no more usernames, no more passwords.
I think that's going to be music to people's ears, the users of the system, right?
Right, yeah.
I hope so, right? So, your team has been talking about certificates and tokens for a long time. Your cameras have had that capability for a long time, but it requires a bit of an ecosystem to manage those certificates and tokens. So knowing that you guys have been talking about this solution for a while, when is implementation expected, right? Do you have any customers doing it today? And who's talking about it? And what's their kind of real quick roadmap of timing for certificate and token-based communication and authentication?
Yeah, it's something that we're already working on with as early as BVMS 13, which is due out in a few weeks here, and then moving forward in the next few versions. We're implementing strictly certificate-based communication between the software and the devices. We're looking even at the ability of BVMS being a certificate authority that can manage that on behalf of the IT team. And of course, we need to entertain other certificate authorities being used as well. As far as adopting, we have some customers that are very eager to deploy this stuff and adopt it. But as you can imagine, it can be a struggle to update to the current version, right? Some of these guys are 5-6 versions back, diehard BVMS fans. But to do this, we're going to need to get them current.
Okay. So beyond certificates and tokens, what other technology or capability are you guys excited about that's either available today or coming soon that helps form the rest of this ecosystem?
Yeah, I would say certificates handle the device communication side of it, but then we talked about a user actually accessing the system. In the last version of BVMS 12.3, we actually implemented single sign-on into the operator client side of that. So with OIDC protocol, you're able to bring in an identity management platform, an IDP, and integrate that into BVMS so your user can have the same credentials that they may access their Windows system on and some of their other applications, we'll say Microsoft Suite, Teams, Outlook, that kind of stuff, pushed down actually to BVMS op client as well, and an option for them to log in through that and get the flexibility of their user permissions through that as well. And I guess the next step to that is something that we've been working towards with customers as well, which is multi-factor authentication. So you've got the single sign-on that's allowing your access into BVMS. There are customers, whether they're federal and it may be a PIV card, or they're in the private sector and they may have some kind of biometric lock or a USB thumb drive that they need to put in. They need more than one authentication option, and that's something that we're also looking towards as well.
Okay. So what's the roadmap? What does the next, 1, 2, 5 years look like for your team's planning to help with the zero trust initiative that most organizations are going to be headed towards?
I mean, a little bit of it is triage, right? We have to look at customers and their approach and what the challenges are they have in front of them. I think the two things that we talked about with the certificates, management at a global level, and then single sign-on is going to knock a lot of that out, and then we can kind of focus on some of the smaller things. I should add as well that on the camera side, though, I'm not the camera guy, but we're making improvements on the firmware there as well for mass certificate management in the cameras. That is absolutely something that's on the roadmap, and I'm hoping that we see that within the next year. I can't make any promises to that, but
it's short term. I mean,
it's short term.
10 years from now, these are all active initiatives.
Yeah.
That are going on today.
Yeah, and more than one team is working on it, right? It's not just you and I from the federal level. It's across my full portfolio and then beyond.
I always appreciate, number one, getting together with you.
Yeah.
But number two, the fact that you are able to demystify some of these things that people tend to throw around, a lot of acronyms, a lot of two-word terms like zero trust, and I appreciate your clearly explaining kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. Give it 6 months, maybe not even that, and there'll be a whole new slew of stuff.
All right, well, we'll put it in the calendar, and we'll get you back here soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Matt.